So thank you guys for being here today. So this is going to be the Unstoppable Energy workshop. So how to lose a stone, double your energy and feel 10 years younger in 90 days. So this workshop is for you if you're a woman over 35, you want to fix your energy so you can sort the kids out, go to work, take care of your home life without hitting a brick wall, without the overwhelm, without feeling burned out. You want to lose weight and feel confident in your body without the self-doubts, without feeling self-conscious, without the guilt of spending time on yourself. You've tried everything from boot camps and boxercise to swimming and running, but still your body doesn't look or feel any different. And you want a different approach that actually works. So just for you guys being here today, I am going to give you, no one has this book yet, so I am giving you the first access to the 7 Habits of Women with Unstoppable Energy. Claire's going to put the link in the chat box now, and you can download that. It's absolutely free, and that will give you a good guide to how we're going to structure everything moving forward. So just before we kind of jump into it, I just want to see kind of why you decided to join today. So can you just stick it in the chat? Why, what motivated you to actually join today? Because this actually helps me to then create stuff kind of moving forward. So if you can just tell me why you kind of jumped in there, that would be great. And then as you kind of do that, we'll move on. So for anybody who doesn't actually know me yet, I think you all do, but in case you don't. So my name is Kia. I'm a female performance coach and founder of Lift Performance Academy. So we deliver health and performance programs to female athletes and busy professional women to perform at their best without burnout. So my role is coach, educator, and speaker. So I'm also a dad and a role model to my 3 amazing kids. So I qualified as a PT back in 2010. By the way, I'm just going through briefly, giving you a quick background of who I am. So I qualified as a PT back in 2010. This is my very first group of amazing people. In 2012, I qualified as a sport and exercise scientist. And since then, I've worked with over 700 athletes, business owners, and professionals to train their bodies and minds. So working with kids and women actually changed the way that I viewed my own body. The reason I got into PT in the first place was because I was obsessed with body image. I wanted to lose body fat, wanted to add muscle. It was all of these kind of superficial things that I wanted, and I really struggled for a long, long time. There just wasn't much information out there. And that's why I started doing personal training. It was more from a selfish perspective. I just wanted to find out more for myself, but then ended up kind of jumping into work, really loving working with people. And then again, working with kids, women and kids, just really found out that actually the body's a pretty amazing thing when you challenge it and really get it to be strong. And today I want to help you get the energy, body, and confidence that you deserve. So why women? So in 1963, Jean Niddich founded a company to make women smaller, weaker, and less noticeable. Since then, the diet and fitness industry have lied to desperate women and men, not just women, all for profit. Juice Plus, Beachbody, Slimming World, Herbalife, Weight Watchers. Actually, Jean Niddich was the one who introduced Weight Watchers to the world. But all of these companies, they're all in it just for profit. They're not. There's not really any intention behind them all, other than profit. And that's why I want to work with women, because women are underserved in the fitness industry. So women have become disempowered with their bodies, ashamed of their appearance, and they become fearful of food and fearful of their bodies. Just from a study that I was kind of going through, I think which was on the mental health, mentalhealth.com, and it was 47% of women felt how you look affects what you can actually achieve in life. 32% felt that your value as a person depends on how you look. 20% felt ashamed of their bodies. 45% feel anxious, while 47% feel depressed about their bodies. 22% said social media worsened the insecurities. Basically, what I'm kind of saying about this, it's a lot of it's focused on how you look. Okay, the media, the diet industry, the fitness industry, it's all about how people look, and we kind of really need to shift away from that. But it's not your fault, because for years you've been brainwashed and shamed by the diet industry to be smaller, weaker, and less noticeable. Again, all for profit. So we made it our mission to empower women and kids to feel confident in their body through education, coaching, and community, and we've been doing this now since 2009. So today you're going to learn the truth about why belly fat becomes harder to lose as you get older, why your energy is rock bottom despite training hard, why most fitness advice isn't designed for you, and discover how to feel, look, and perform 10 years younger without killing yourself in the gym, lose body fat easily without starving yourself with my nutrition blueprint, and how to change your body composition at any stage of life. But you're already following the fitness advice, so why is this any different? I'm going to go through three core problems. The first one is you're actually working against your unique physiology. So most coaches and trainers are giving out the wrong advice to women because approximately 75% of health studies are actually conducted on men. And the reason for this is because women's physiology is so complex that they don't get considered for more studies because it makes the study too complex. So if you look at things like supplements that get research, fitness that gets research, most of it's done on guys. There is a change and it is starting to bring a lot more women into it. But for the past sort of 3-4 decades, it's all been kind of done on men. And this is why it's kind of so far behind. And because of that, there's a lot of fitness influencers spreading poorly researched and often wrong information when it comes to women. Because you're kind of told by trainers, especially, to push through, work harder, eat less, move more, always be in a calorie deficit, no pain, no gain. These are kind of what a lot of trainers do, and it's not just guys, by the way. Women, especially young women, can be very, very harsh on older women when it comes to their fitness. But these things just lead to low power, low energy. Okay, and it leaves you fatigued, leaves you with no energy, leaves you kind of burnt out. So the solution is basically performance physiology. Okay, you've got to work with your hormones, not against them. So how do you do that? I'm going to briefly go through the menstrual cycle because this is absolutely important. And the two main parts of the menstrual cycle the two main hormones of the menstrual cycle is estrogen. And you've got to think of estrogen as energy, motivation, and confidence. Okay. This is your kind of the go hormone. This is what gets you kind of revved up, energized, and you feel absolutely amazing. This is estrogen. Progesterone, on the other hand, this is your calm, protective, restoration hormone that comes in the second part of the cycle. You've got to think of this as like the slow down and recharge hormone. Okay. But these two things, these two hormones come together to create the balance that you need to thrive. And we're going to go through exactly how that looks in the menstrual cycle. So this is basically how a textbook menstrual cycle looks. Again, everybody's different, which we'll kind of touch on. But if we're talking about sort of typical menstrual cycle, this is kind of how it looks. So you can see that the hormones aren't linear. So if you look at a guy's hormones are pretty much sort of straight line. Women's hormones aren't for obvious reasons. You have different hormones at a heightened level at different stages of your menstrual cycle. So the first part, if we look at estrogen, so estrogen, we can see in the follicular phase, this is at its highest. This is when you feel amazing. This is when you have a lot of energy, a lot of confidence, a lot of motivation. This is when it could be the best time to go all in. Now, I put question marks there because this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go all in with your training or anything like that because everybody's different. But it is a time when you have the most energy. Then you've got progesterone, which is in the later stages in the luteal phase. And at this period in time, you actually get a dip in energy and you get a rise in metabolism. This is why you get like cravings at this part of your the menstrual cycle, and it's probably the worst time to actually push your limits. Now, it's not to say that you can't work hard at this part of your menstrual cycle, but it just means you're not probably going to have as much energy as you have at a different part of your menstrual cycle, which is kind of the follicular phase. So a good time to here is to focus on strength training, recovery. Recovery is really important. We've got to think of progesterone as the actual like recovery hormone. This is kind of telling your body to slow down a little bit, add more recovery in there, ease off the intensity and kind of look at it from that perspective and probably have a few more calories as well. And then we've got the period, and we have just after premenstrual, when both hormones are really low, and you'll have a lot of abdominal pain, cramps, and feeling really unmotivated. PMS symptoms, bloating, fatigue, anxiety is very common, and feeling self-conscious about your body, especially if you're kind of bloated and you're just not feeling it. The last thing you want is somebody shouting at you, telling you to go harder, to no pain, no gain. All of these things that the fitness industry inflicts on people. The thing is, most fitness methods are very linear, high intensity calorie burning and restrictive eating, also known as kind of high stress. So if we look at this line here, you've got to imagine this line, this red line here is that high intensity. Now, if you're on the follicular phase, when your estrogen is at highest, you might be able to, sustain that level of intensity. It might actually be beneficial for you. But then through the other parts of your menstrual cycle, and that intensity is still high and you're not looking at the menstrual cycle and not adapting to suit, then you are going to really struggle. And because of that, your energies, you're going to have crashes in energy. You're going to struggle with your sleep. And because of that, you're not going to be able to recover. And losing body fat is going to be almost impossible. The thing is, your cycle is very unique to you. Okay. So your levels of estrogen, your levels of progesterone, they're all going to be unique to you. Your experience is very different to everybody, to different women. Your experience is going to be very different to another woman who's sat beside you, or your sister, or whoever it is, your daughter, whoever. It's going to be very, very different. Everybody experiences it differently. So no one can tell you how you should be feeling. This is why, when you're in these sort of fitness boot camps and these types of things, and they're telling you to just push on and go harder, they're telling you should be okay, you just got to get on with it. They can't be telling you how you should be feeling. This is a total individual thing. This is why tuning into your body, tracking your cycle, recording things, and adapting your training as you kind of go. Adapting everything, not just your training, your recovery, your nutrition. Everything should be adapted based on your menstrual cycle. And of course, there's perimenopause. So this is kind of a woman's life and hormones. So as you're kind of 25 up to around about the age of 30, 35, your levels of estrogen and progesterone are at their highest. But perimenopause is your reproductive system actually winding down for retirement. It's your body preparing for the next stage of life. Okay, that's what your body's doing, is preparing for the next stage of life, which we're going to touch on in just a moment. But once you kind of get the age of 35, this is when your estrogen levels start to dip. And when this happens, so things like you get a loss of bone strength. So estrogen is vital for bone strength. It's also vital for muscle mass. Estrogen supports muscle growth, muscle tissue, changes in body fat distribution. So you'll have changes in body fat distribution as estrogen starts coming down. A decrease in metabolic flexibility. Metabolic flexibility, by the way, is actually your superpower as a woman. Sorry, excuse me, just gonna have a little drink. What metabolic flexibility is, it's basically your ability to transition to switch between using carbohydrates and fat for fuel. Like guys can't do that very efficiently, whereas women can. And it's probably one of the reasons why maybe a lot of women do gravitate more to cardio-based exercises, because they find it a lot more natural to kind of go to. But this is actually your superpower. But as kind of estrogen dips, then you start to lose that metabolic flexibility, energy and mood. So as perimenopause kicks in, you start feeling things like anxiety, anger, brain fog, and just not feeling like yourself anymore. And then we touched on before about the redistribution of fat, because this is a very common question that I get asked is, why am I starting to hold body fat around the midriff? And that's just because what happens is when your estrogen levels are high, then estrogen distributes fat predominantly around the hips and around the thighs and the buttocks. as estrogen dips, you start having the shift in fat towards the midriff. Okay, so that's why you do get that change in distribution of fat. So what I'm kind of saying is what worked in your 20s won't work in your 40s. There's a really good paper here on the metabolic effects of perimenopause. So what this kind of paper found out was perimenopausal women had the highest body fat and most belly fat compared to pre and post menopausal women. So basically because you're going through the changes, your body's changing, your fat distribution is changing, you're having a lot of metabolic changes. And this is when you start losing muscle mass, start holding more body fat. But what this paper actually concluded was perimenopause period it may be the most opportune window for lifestyle interventions and to adapt your training to prevent unwanted menopausal symptoms, metabolic and body compositional changes as you kind of get older. So kind of what this is saying is perimenopause is actually an ideal time to start implementing these lifestyle changes. So what you were doing in your 20s, if you were training in your 20s, this is why you need to change things as you kind of get past the age of 30 and start being a lot smarter with your training. So how to change through the ages of life. So I'm just going to go through 3 stages here. And I know you guys on this now have daughters. So this is why I wanted to add this part into it. So between teens and the 20s, this is kind of the age of the athlete. And encourage your daughters with this, by the way. This is a time of peak physical performance, speed, strength. This phase represents exploring potential and laying the foundations for a strong future. Okay, so things to focus on at this age is strength. Push the limits, get as strong as you can. Building muscle. Again, it's a prime time to build muscle. Estrogen's at its highest. You have your hormones working on your side. Your body is primed to go. And as we kind of seen, that if you can build muscle at a younger age, then this is going to set you up for life. And you can max out. So when you're at these younger ages, you can take muscles to failure. So don't be scared to take muscle to failure. So this is what we do encourage, like the girls in the gym. We have a lot of young girls in the gym. We encourage them to push the limits, to get stronger, to focus on building some muscle, not to be scared of building muscle, because as we'll kind of touch on later, muscle doesn't make women bulky. And then we've got the age of the champion, which is kind of your 30s to 40s. This is a period of fortifying strength, both physically and mentally, to protect against the demands of life. This is kind of when you're going to have your career, you'll be having kids, life stresses then start coming into your life. So you've got to be a lot smarter with your training. And this is where you start and build that resilience. So focusing on compound movements, building strength, like we kind of said in the initial stages. So compound movements, deadlifting, squatting, pull-ups, these types of things. Focus on muscle building or muscle making. I prefer to say muscle making than muscle building. Muscle building sounds kind of all butchy and macho and bodybuildery. It's not. Muscle making, we need to make this quality muscle that's going to serve us for life, for the rest of our life. And I have the principles that I'll work through this. I have 3 principles of muscle making. And recovery. This is when recovery starts becoming really important. Recovery is important throughout, but as you kind of start getting older, you've really got to focus on recovery strategies because recovery is where you kind of grow and where you get better. So don't max it out. This is not taking things to failure. It's really focused on being strategic and smart with your training. And then you've got the age of the warrior. So this is when 40 plus. So this is a phase of unapologetic strength, confidence, and mastery. So women in the 40s channel the physical and mental toughness to thrive and lead boldly. This is when things can really start getting interesting. Strength is the main focus because although your estrogen levels are declining, the superpower you have is you can then tap into your CNS system. Okay, I'm not going to really confuse things with this, but what this kind of means is by tapping into your CNS system, you develop these neurological adaptations in your brain. Because your body doesn't have estrogen then to help you build muscle, your body then relies more on the neurological aspect of muscle building. And that is kind of now your superpower. Okay. So you can still build good quality muscle. You can still build incredible strength just through a different pathway. Power moves and jumps, so things like skipping, jumps, these things help to build muscle. But what it also does is, and this is really important, is that it helps to strengthen your bones. Strength training does as well, but especially jumping as well. When you're jumping and landing safely, of course, this strengthens your bones. And as we've seen before, as estrogen starts to dip, one of the main things that women struggle with, or certainly starts to hinder the health, is bone weaknesses, so osteoporosis, these types of things. So starting to incorporate power and jumps is absolutely essential for women over 40. Sprints, this doesn't have to be sort of like sprints, uh, like running sprints. It can be on a bike, it can be up hills. It's got to be safe, but fast speeds of energy, fast speeds and training helps you to keep this muscle. Again, using the three principles of muscle making, and recovery becomes even more important. So train hard, absolutely train hard, but recover smarter. Okay, recovery is so important. So this was Claire. Claire at the time was 43. She was a self-acclaimed, this is not my words, cardio queen. She was just obsessed with cardio. She was training multiple times a day. She was doing classes, running, anything that burned calories. But she was struggling to lose fat around the midriff. She was really frustrated. It wasn't going, and the kind of older she was getting, the more was actually accumulating around the midriff, and she didn't like it. She was never happy with the way she looked. She was fearful of carbs that making her fat. She thought carbohydrates were the enemy. And the results that she got, now I've worked with Claire for a long, long time. The results that she got, she deadlifted 120 kilos for one rep. Bear in mind, when we first started training together, she couldn't even bodyweight squat. Okay. She couldn't do push-ups. She couldn't do bodyweight squat. Her strength was, she'd be fine with me saying this, her strength was absolutely terrible because she was just always focused on cardio. But then she got to a point where she could deadlift 120 kilos for one rep. Most guys can't do that, by the way. It's pretty incredible. 20 push-ups from the floor, going from 0 to 20. 8 body weight pull-ups, as you can see on there. She's actually got weight on there. That's the kind of level that she got to. And she actually lost that stubborn fat that was annoying her from a midriff. This is Helen. Helen is actually British powerlifting record holder. She didn't start strength training until she was in the 60s. And she holds the British record for powerlifting in the Masters. I can't remember what it was. That was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. Helen has a lot of autoimmune diseases. I can't remember exactly what she has now, but she's got diseases that are kind of attacking her body, and she was on loads of medication. She put loads of weight on. She had really bad arthritis. She started strength training. The arthritis pretty much cleared up. Not completely. You couldn't get rid of it, but it improved by about 80 or 90%. She then came off the medication and she lost an absolute shed ton of weight, like ridiculous amount of weight without even trying, just because she started getting stronger. And one of her main things is she's a retired teacher. She went to live in France. And when she moved to France, all the guys were going to a village fair, and all the guys were like, oh no, you can't lift this, you can't lift this, we're moving furniture. And she actually pushed them out the way, start lifting the furniture and moving them. And these guys were absolutely like flabbergasted. They couldn't believe that this 60-odd-year-old woman was lifting the furniture that they couldn't even lift themselves. So it's a massive confidence boost. And this is Sue at 57. All she'd ever done in her life was aerobics and boxercise, these kind of high intensity cardio styles of training. And strength training is the only exercise, in Sue's words, that she's ever done where she's noticed a change in her body. Core problem number 2 is you are focused on weight loss. So weight loss versus fat loss. Weight loss basically is as it is, weight loss. But when you're losing weight, when you're focused on losing weight, you're losing not just fat mass, you're losing water weight, muscle weight, bone weight. You will actually lose bone weight if you're just focused on losing weight. And at last, fat weight. Fat is what you lose last if you were just focused on losing weight. Fat loss, on the other hand, you are losing fat weight. That is all you are essentially losing. Here's the thing, after the age of 30, as we kind of discovered before with the drop in estrogen, muscle mass starts to decline by approximately 1% each year. That's a pretty big deal. So this is known as sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle and strength loss. So if we look at this graph here, this is males and females. So it peaks in early adulthood, around about the age of sort of 25. This is a kind of at your peak. And then there's a gradual decline from the ages of 30 to 40. And then from the ages of 50, there's a substantial decline in muscle mass. So you might be wondering why that's a problem. So this here is a young, healthy thigh muscle. This here is a sarcopenia thigh muscle. So this was someone in their 50s, if I remember correctly. So as you can see from that, the size of the thigh isn't greatly different. But what this muscle has here, what this thigh has here is a lot of muscle mass with very, very little fat mass. Now, what this one has here is a lot less muscle mass. It's got like a marble effect with a lot more fat mass. Now, the problem with muscle loss is this. Muscle is vital for health, especially metabolic health, which we're going to kind of touch on. When you lose muscle mass, you increase your fat storage. Without enough muscle, your body stores more fat, which becomes much more difficult to lose. So you actually struggle to lose fat as you get older because it doesn't replace it, but your weight sometimes doesn't change. But what happens is you start losing muscle, but replacing that with body fat. So your weight might not change, but your body becomes softer and weaker because of that loss of muscle. Everyday tasks get harder. I hear this a lot where people say, I'm so unfit. They're not unfit, they're just under-muscled. High risk of injury. So a muscle leads to weaker joints and bones, making you more prone to injuries, sprains, and even bone fractures. Loss of muscle tone. So we've got to think about that muscle actually shapes your body. So if you're here and kind of thinking you want to shape your body more, then muscle is what actually shapes your body. Fat is shapeless. Muscle shapes your body. In metabolic health, muscle is so important for things like controlling blood sugar levels, which reduces the risk of diabetes. Metabolic health is things like heart disease, intensive perimenopausal symptoms. So if you are going through perimenopause or you're having these types of symptoms, the loss of muscle is actually going to intensify these symptoms. And this is what we mean by metabolic health. So things like diabetes, heart disease, blood pressure, how your body kind of operates, that's your metabolic health. And as muscle depreciates, your metabolic health becomes worse. But you might be already working out and training hard. But the thing is, typical calorie burning methods are what most women, especially, are using to lose weight. So things like boot camps, but these just cause more stress on your body. Spinning just burns muscle instead of making muscle. Things like running, which just actually increases the risk of injuries. And what this leads to is the weight loss cycle of crash and burn. You kind of hit the wall. And this is what that is. So you go through the periods of calorie burning, you're really motivated and you start restricting your calories, you start training all of the time, you're going all in with it because you just focus on I need to burn more calories, I need to burn more calories. This just leads to burnout. And then when you get to that level of burnout, you just crash and then you feel defeated and you kind of lose all motivation. And then you go on a bit of a binge. And then you get back into that motivation, you go back on the calorie burning, and it's just a cycle, a constant cycle of just crash and burn. Weight loss slows down to a stop, and you feel like you're not doing enough. So then you go harder with your training, you eat less to burn more calories. But your body just becomes more stressed out and it becomes unresponsive. Because of that, you burn more muscle, store more fat, and feel more exhausted. Your energy crashes, your body shape doesn't change, your mental and emotional health starts to suffer. And you're left feeling stuck and defeated. So what's the solution? High performance training. We got there eventually. She was slow coming in, wasn't she? So I've got a little story for you here. So we just moved house and we live on this hill, and it's a pretty big hill. That's actually one of the reasons why we chose it, because it's a good workout. It's an incredible workout. Anyway, I was talking to one of our neighbors. She's probably in her mid to late 60s, I think. Um, anyway, I was talking to her, and she was at the bottom of the hill, and we are having a little bit of a chat. And she's been living here for 30 years, and she was saying how hard this hill is getting as she's kind of getting older. But what she was saying was, she goes, I'm getting so unfit. I'm so unfit, I can't get up this hill. But the point was, and what I kind of said to her is, it's not your fitness. The fitness isn't the problem. The problem is muscle. Because you're losing muscle, you don't have the power to power up that hill. You don't have the muscle to lift your body up that hill anymore. If she just focused on a little bit of strength work, she would absolutely power up that hill. But because she hasn't done that, all she's done is just walked up that hill. So her level of intensity hasn't changed. She's just done that hill the whole time. She hasn't actually pushed her body any further with any strength training. If she did that, then that hill would still be a breeze. And we're going to bring you back to this image here of this muscle, because this is really important for you to kind of look at. So you have two types of muscle fibers. This is what I want you to think about. So what makes this healthy muscle here is two types of muscle fibers. You've got type 1 muscle fibers and you have type 2 muscle fibers. Type 1 muscle fibers, these are things you use type 1 muscle fibers for, like walking, running, low intensity exercises. So if you're going for like a swim, a walk, hiking, you're running, you're on your bike, everyday things, these are your type 1 muscle fibers. These are very important. Your type 2 muscle fibers, these are things like strength and power, functional tasks like lifting your kids and carrying groceries. You're using your type 2 muscle fibers here. Now, this muscle here, this thigh muscle, that's a mix of type 1 and type 2 fibers. That's why it's nice and healthy, strong, has very little body fat. This one, however, has a loss of type 2 fibers. The reason for that is because you lose type 2 muscle fibers 3 times faster than you lose these type 1. So if all you're doing is cardio-based stuff like running, classes, and that type of thing, all you're doing is you're just basically maintaining these muscle fibers here. By doing strength, power work, which we touched on before, then you start developing these type 2 muscle fibers, which keeps your muscle like this here, which, as we touched before, makes you a lot healthier. Oh. So how do you get these precious fibers back? The first thing is to lift, okay? Strength training, like we touched on before. So things like deadlifting, squats, push-ups, pull-ups. Doesn't have to be with a barbell. It can be starting with body weight. Doesn't matter. When you're going through resistance, that's all we're kind of saying here. When you're lifting, you could be just lifting your own body weight. You could be lifting 100 kilos. Doesn't matter. You just lifting, but you progress as you kind of go on. But you need to challenge your muscles. You need to challenge your muscles with resistance. The second thing is to jump. Skipping, explosive movements, these types of things, which actually stimulates, this excites the type 2 muscle fibers. I hope I'm not confusing things here with these type 1 and type 2. So think of type 1 as cardio, think of type 2 as strength and power. Okay? Strength and power are like your gold standard muscle fibers that you really want to protect at all costs. Yeah. So when you're jumping, sprinting, because sprinting's the next one, jumping, sprinting, you're actually exciting these muscles and you're encouraging them to grow. So we need to get away from this weight loss, okay? Not to say you can't use weight as a measure. You absolutely can use weight as a measure, but it's got to be very strategic. And how I do this very strategically with the women that I work with, and it's very specific to the menstrual cycle. I'm not going to go through that today because it can take a bit of time, but we're not using this as the main focus. The main focus that we actually want to be focused on is how you perform, okay? Focusing on these, your metrics, performance metrics, are so much better than weight metrics, because weight metrics just keep you in that cycle of constant, just that crash and burn cycle. Was when you're focusing on performance metrics, and this is what I came up with from all the women that I've trained over the years. Just quickly go through to be able to deadlift 1.5 times your body weight. Again, you could be looking at things like that and thinking, I'm nowhere near that. There's women in the 90s who've never strength trained in their life, and they're up to this now. Okay. So you can do this. Everybody can do this. It just takes time. But this is why it's got to be fun. And it is fun. To be able to run a mile in 8 to 10 minutes, perform 10 push-ups from the floor, hike comfortably for 5 miles, carry half your body weight for 100 meters. Okay. That's like a farmer's walks. So basically, it's like carrying shopping bags, but with dumbbells. Hip thrusting. So hip thrust is one of my favorite exercises, and I think everybody should be doing hip thrusting. If you follow me on social media, say I do this a lot in the gym, just because it develops the glutes, and the glutes are one, your butt is the main muscle that basically deteriorates as you kind of get older because we spend a lot of time sitting on it. And because we sleep on it, sit on it, there's a thing called glute amnesia, which is basically when your butt falls asleep and your muscles stop working. So we kind of need to really develop the glutes and to perform one full pull-up. So maybe take a screenshot of that if you want to, or I can send you it or whatever it is. But these are really good metrics to focus towards and achievable by absolutely everybody. Guarantee you that. So I'm going to leave you with this, with the weight loss side of things. So weight loss leaves you shapeless, tired, and emotionally distressed, also known as scale anxiety. Fat loss gives you energy, strength, and confidence to walk into any room and own your space. So this was Linda. This was Linda making muscle after kids. Linda was feeling really low on energy. She totally lost her confidence after giving birth to a second time. She lost a lot of muscle mass. You can see from the images there that she has lost a lot of muscle mass in comparison to the image on the right side there. She was co-running a business with her husband. She was a part-time lecturer and a full-time mother to 2 young kids. She was extremely busy. She was a very, very busy lady, and she was only training twice a week. Okay, she was training twice a week, but focused really intentionally on strength and muscle making. And obviously, we looked at the nutrition, the recovery. That was a huge part of it as well. And this is just an image here to show you how muscle changes your body shape. So this was Katie. Katie didn't actually lose any weight at all on these two photos. But you'll see the difference there in her shape because she developed muscle. Because we were saying before, because she lost muscle, then she started strength training. She started regaining that muscle back, but her weight didn't actually change. But her fat mass came down, her muscle mass went up, so her weight didn't change, but her shape changed dramatically. And you can see the shape just from there. If you look at her glutes and her thighs, everything has changed. And this is Katie's weight. She thought nothing had changed. Her weight was more than what it was when she started. She actually went up in weight. She never felt hungry. She felt much better, but couldn't understand why weight stayed the same. And that was why. And then after taking a progress picture, she was just like, wow, I can't believe that. She couldn't see it because she was just looking at her weight. So I encouraged her to take progress pictures. And this is why I do encourage people to take progress pictures, not to splash them all over social media. You'll see that I don't push stuff like this on social media, but I do them in talks like this because it's very important that you can see why, especially from this perspective. And a common myth is that lifting weights makes women bulky. This was Kim. This was Kim at the bottom lifting. This is a glute bridge, by the way, which is very similar to a hip thrust. But Kim was literally lifting 160 kilos here during a fat loss phase. Yeah, so that was Kim on the left. That was Kim on the right. She's not at all bulky, and she was lifting ridiculous amounts of weight. Now, I'm not saying that you've got to go and lift 160 kilos. What I'm trying to kind of say with this is it's a case of, building muscle does not make women bulky. But what if you've got work and kids and just don't have the time? You don't need to be in the gym for hours on end. Okay, you don't even need to be in a gym. You can do this in as little as 20 minutes each day. Okay, in the gym. You can go up for the gym. You could do 2 to 3 times gym sessions for 45 to 60 minutes if you've got that time. If not, you can just create your own gym in the garage. You can buy some equipment, 4 to 5 times home gym workouts, 20 minutes a day. That's all you need to do. 20 minutes, 4 to 5 times a week. Or even if you've got no equipment, you could just do body weight stuff 4 to 5 times a week in your living room, 20 minutes a day. That is it. Build your workouts around your life don't build your life around your workouts. We're just going to take a quick little break now, and I want to just ask you, what's your biggest takeaway so far? So if you could just unmute yourself and let me know what is your biggest takeaway. Um, does anybody fancy jumping in and just telling me what your biggest takeaway is? Anybody?
Yeah. Well,
Go on then.
I think it's quite interesting what you're saying about the type 1 and type 2 muscle. Because a lot of people think that because they walk a lot, they walk the dog a lot, that they're going to be extra fit. And I
Mm.
suppose what you're saying is then walking's good, but really you need to be doing some strength training as well. And I
Yeah,
kind of think as we get older, we tend to think, oh, I walk a lot, I'll do this, that, and the other. But actually, it's strength training that's going to help to maintain that muscle mass, not the walking. The walking's going to be quite limited in terms of maintaining muscle mass, isn't it?
it's going to help you keep a hold of those type 1 fibers.
Hmm.
The type 2 are the ones that actually that keep you stronger.
Yeah.
You can lose them. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
I think for me, it's probably how much muscle you lose
It,
and like the effect that has on how fit you feel.
yeah, well, that's it. Exactly that. And it's the thing is you do because you do. I think people aren't aware of actually how much muscle you lose, and especially you get older, it starts declining quite rapidly. You know, up until this is why you guys have got kids who are kind of in the gym. Some of them are training with me, which is amazing. Like they're at the prime. They're going to build muscle really easily. This is why I really encourage, especially young girls, to get into the gym because if they can build that muscle up at a younger age, they're going to have that for life. Like they're going to have those neural connections, which I spoke about before, and they'll not get the effects of that. Say a woman who doesn't do any training at all, then goes into menopause, she's going to probably really struggle with her perimenopause symptoms. Not saying that she will. Again, it goes back to everybody's different, but you're trying to kind of give yourself that fighting chance, aren't you? That when you do go in that period of life, you're kind of bulletproofing yourself. So if we can get young girls in the gym and get them to bulletproof themselves when they get older, we're kind of helping them. Cool. Does anybody else got any takeaways?
Just that cross section of the thigh, like when you said the one on the right was someone in their 50s, I thought it was going to be someone in their 80s, but there was so much less muscle.
Yeah,
It really like made me realize why strength training is so important.
it is. I mean, that image there was from somebody who was sedentary, who actually didn't do anything. Um, but it goes to show kind of the difference of how that can depreciate very, very quickly. I mean, if all you did was walk and kept yourself fit and active, then you're doing, what 90% of people aren't doing. That's really good. This is like sort of the next level type of type of thing, really. Like that woman I was talking to, she was still keeping herself fit. She was still active and she was doing what most women aren't doing. But if she wanted to get that little bit better and to power up that hill again, if she just done some strength training, then she would feel so much better. Uh, Cool. Thank you for your feedbacks on that. Do you want to jump into the next part? Okay, cool. I'm just gonna where we're at. Oh, okay, so core problem number 3 is that you're following the wrong diets. So this is a typical um, sort of diet what a lot of people, especially women, go through. So they'll restrict themselves for a long period of time, say 3, 4, 5, sometimes longer, 6 weeks. And then they'll go through kind of binges. So they'll go through a period where they're being good, and then they fell off the wagon, and then they're being good again, and then they fell off the wagon. So they're kind of doing this up and down the continuous time. And generally, when they're being good is when they're following some kind of diet plan that somebody's gave them. And generally, it's a restrictive diet. Um, there's hundreds of diets that we can kind of think of that would probably resonate with you now, but you know what all these things are. But what this kind of does is it kind of leaves you trapped because you get dissatisfied with your body. You have that all or nothing thinking, I've got to go all in. You become fearful of food. You get scared of carbohydrates. You get scared of eating. You become obsessed with your appearance. Your self-worth is actually tied to your weight. Your short-term focus sabotages your long-term results. So that focus of I need to be really, really good, it sabotages the long-term results. You get stressed and anxious when the scales don't move. And what this kind of leads to is it's what's called low energy availability and high stress, which is also known as tired and wired. So has anybody felt like that, where you're tired, but you're still wired when you can't sleep at night? You just, yeah, tired and wired is kind of the best way to describe it. So what is low energy availability? So you've got to think of this as like a smartphone. Okay, so if you think of a smartphone, when a smartphone has full energy, then everything works. The apps work, the screen's bright, everything's working. But once that phone starts to get to 20% and starts getting down to low, things start shutting down. So it starts slowing down, the screen starts getting dimmer, and basically its functionality starts to depreciate, starts to deteriorate, and it starts going into what's called like economy mode. I prefer economy mode. There's a thing called survival mode where people talk about survival mode, where your body kind of jumps into survival mode. But I just think that's a bit too scary for people. I prefer the term economy mode, where your body starts shutting down. So things like your menstrual cycle, starts becoming dysfunctional. You start getting energy crashes. You just really can't be bothered to do anything, and you lose your motivation. You lose just everything. You basically just start shutting down. Now, if you're kind of looking at this diet that we kind of went through before, now imagine if you go through times of sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks and longer, when you're at this extremely low state of calorie deficit, then you're in that state of low energy availability. Okay, so if we take this kind of 12 weeks, it's a typical kind of 12 weeks. Out of those 12 weeks, half of that has been in a state of low energy availability. You haven't been giving your body enough fuel to actually perform and to function like daily tasks. So things like just how your body functions, back to metabolic functionality, metabolic health, how your body functions. If you don't give your body enough energy for that, then it kind of slows down. So out of that 12 weeks, your body's in that state of low energy availability. And so why does this happen? Well, this is a really good study that it was done in athletes because, and I'm going to relate this to show you why the fitness industry is exactly the same. But if we talk about kind of athletes, it's very predominant. It is common, not as common in men, but it's very, very common in female athletes because basically they go into a state of low energy availability because of things like body image specifically. They get really tied to the body image. They're wanting to lose weight. They want to look a certain way, and they go into low eating disorders. And this has caused things like toxic cultures, social influences, body dissatisfaction, high training demands. So if we think about from a female athlete perspective, then they're kind of doing sports where they're training at a very high level. Lack of nutritional knowledge. So if we think about the typical fitness trends and environments, it's very much the same as the athletic world as well. So we think about things like high intensity style of training, F45, CrossFit, Insanity. You ever seen Insanity with that Sean? Can't remember what's his second name now. Can't remember his name now. But it's absolutely nuts. It's insane. It's insanity. But it's really detrimental. It's designed for maximum burn. So you're in that state of just train, 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 hard, hard, hard. The constant chant for calorie energy restriction. So you'll hear this a lot. You've got to cut out your carbs, cut out your fat, stop eating fruit, stop eating bread, don't eat after 6 p.m. There's loads of rules that tell you that you should stop doing these things, and you start doing these things and you stop eating the food that's actually fueling your body. Obsession with body image and weight. We'll see loads of these things on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. Jessica lost 17 pounds in just 6 weeks. Some women can be really intimidated by that and say, well, how come I haven't lost 17 pounds? Like Jessica might have had 40 pounds to lose. She might have had 60 pounds to lose. So her losing 17 pounds is it's like a drop in the ocean. But for someone who hasn't really got 17 pounds to lose, that's a lot of weight, right? But then if you see that someone's lost 17 pounds, that can almost have that cycle of comparison. And you're thinking, well, what's wrong with me? And then, Sam went from flab to fab by using this secret method. And then they'll have like an ultra filtered before and after photo where Sam's like fat and, you know, sad. And then all of a sudden she's kind of lean with loads of fake tan on her and she looks really lean, and you're kind of looking at that and thinking, you know, what's happened? Why can't I be like that? And it's just these, you know, images and the way that's been portrayed on social media. And toxic cultures that push unrealistic body ideals and promise specific look if you follow their rules. Gyms can be very, very like this. You know, if you kind of in the wrong gym environment, that can push the wrong type of culture. This is why if you are going to a gym, it's important that you select or you're very, very conscious of the gym that you're going to and make sure that the people you're surrounding yourself with are the right people. And this kind of leads to detrimental actions like skipping meals. You know, this is just very, very common. Reducing calorie intake, believing that will help you to control weight and burn fat. Restrictive eating patterns, such as like cutting out entire food groups, no carbs, no fats. Use of diet pills or supplements, appetite suppressants, fat burners, other diet-related supplements to control hunger and energy levels. By the way, I've done all these things. Like, I'm not just kind of saying this because this is what I've seen. I've actually done these things myself. So I'm very familiar of using diet pills, supplements, skipping meals, fasting, all of these jazz things to try to burn fat. Purging behaviors, vomiting, use of laxatives. You know, I knew a girl a long time ago who was using laxatives to lose weight. She would take laxatives every single day to the point where she messed herself up. She really messed her insides up by using these laxatives. Avoiding food in social situations. You know, you've probably been there where you've pretended to eat before you've went, or you know, you'll make excuses to avoid meals. You get anxious when you're kind of sitting in a restaurant and thinking, oh, what should I have? What should I eat? I can't have anything because I'll ruin my diet. So how do you know if you've got low energy availability? Well, here's a couple of questions you can ask yourself. Are you training but not seeing results? Are you experiencing low mood or a lack of excitement to train? Has your menstrual cycle changed? This is a biggie, okay? Think of your menstrual cycle as like your health card. If something's changed in that and it's irregular, that is a big red flag, okay? That is the first thing that will probably change, and that is the first thing that you need to look at. Any change in your menstrual cycle, that is a red flag to go and get, or certainly look into what's going on. Am I having more gut issues? Do I have recurrent injuries or illness? Have my sleeping patterns changed? These are just signs, questions you can ask yourself if you are actually in a state of low energy availability. So what's the solution to that? Well, performance nutrition and recovery. So shift the focus from restricting your body to nourishing your body with fuel, nutrients, and recovery to feel energized. So this is the 3 levels of nutrition blueprint, which I'm going to go through. This is my 3 levels of nutrition. But first, I'm just going to touch on the Twinkie diet. So let me know in the chat if you've actually heard of the Twinkie diet. So this guy here is called Mark Hope. So he's a professor of Kansas University. He's a nutritional professor. And what Mark did was, Dr. Mark Hope, he actually ate nothing but junk food for 10 weeks. Okay. It was called the Twinkie diet because basically he went to a convenience store and ate what was ever available in the convenience store. And pretty much it was like Twinkies, Doritos, these types of things, just basically junk food. The caveat to what he actually did was he did take a protein shake because protein is an essential macronutrient. If you don't actually have any protein in your diet, you would die. So you had to have a protein shake once a day. And he took a multivitamin as well. But what he wanted to kind of do was he wanted to see if just eating a really bad diet, but in a calorie restrictive manner, so he was eating less calories than he was burning. I think he worked out his calorie allowance was like 2,300. So he then ate 1,800 of just junk food, right? So he was in a 500 calorie deficit. In 10 weeks, he lost 27 pounds. Okay, 27 pounds he lost in 10 weeks, and all of his blood markers improved. Yeah, so his cholesterol improved. Everything that he tested went up. Yeah, it went completely against the traditional advice of you have to eat really great food and you've got to eat clean to lose weight and to improve your health. What he proved with this is that energy balance is more important than anything else when it comes to weight loss. Because if you lose weight, then by losing that weight, you are becoming healthier. Okay. But the caveat to this was it was just weight that he was losing, like we mentioned before. Okay, so he was just focused on weight and he lost 27 pounds of weight. I don't know what his muscle to fat mass ratio was that he lost, but overall he lost 27 pounds. So what this is kind of saying is, energy balance is the first thing to consider. And this brings us to the nutritional, my blueprint nutrition. The first thing is energy balance. That is the first place where everybody starts. Understanding calories in, calories out is the fundamentals to good health. Okay. Then we have fat loss, and then we've got performance. Each one is important, but the first one, second, and third goes in the hierarchy of importance. So the first one, energy balance, you've got to think of think of calories as energy. Most people have a really bad association with calories, okay? They get calorie burning. No, eat less calories, calories on food, all of these types of things. But if you actually switch that and just say it's just energy, okay? If it's a Mars bar, it's energy. If it's an avocado, it's energy, okay? They contain roughly the same amount of energy, about 250 units of energy in a Mars bar, about 250 units of energy in an avocado. So when we're thinking about energy balance, they're both exactly the same. So a good place to start is basically take your body weight in pounds and times it by about 12 to 14, okay? This is just a starting point. It's not really a scientific kind of formula. Scientific formulas don't work when it comes to this because it's all very individual dependent. You've got to kind of assess it and adjust it as you kind of go, but it's a good place to start, okay? And note, you only want to be in a slight deficit if you're doing this alone, okay? And why I say if you're doing this alone is because you can be in an extreme calorie deficit as long as it's monitored and you've got these next principles in line and lose weight, okay? I don't want to confuse you with that because we're kind of assuming that you're going to be doing this alone. So only stay in a slight deficit and your weight will start coming down. The second is fat loss, okay? So we're going away from that weight loss now, but we're still using energy balance as that key metric. Now we're going into macronutrients, which is fat loss. And the main thing we want to think about is protein, okay? As people in general, not just women, as people in general get older, the protein intake starts to go down. I don't know why this happens, but people tend to gravitate more to carbohydrates and fats and away from proteins. But protein is the most important macronutrient that you can have. It keeps you fuller for longer. It's essential for muscle retention and it's essential for health. If you took protein out of your diet, like we said before, you'd actually die. Okay, it's an essential macronutrient. So always start with protein. Carbs are fuel for your body. Your body needs carbohydrates to fuel your exercise. Fat is important for hormonal health and for fuel as well. So like we were saying before, women can transition between using carbohydrates and fat intermittently, which is your superpower. So both are as important as the other. Okay, and fiber is important for good health. So this is kind of level 2, and then we go into level 3, which is the supplements. Okay, so fish oils, vitamin D. These are my essential supplements if you're going to take supplements. So fish oils and vitamin D, creatine, iron, especially through menstruation. If you're losing blood, a lot of blood, then maybe it's why I put it as a question mark. You might need an iron supplement within certain periods of your menstrual cycle. Magnesium, again, is an essential micronutrient that can be lost through menstruation. But that's like the tip of the iceberg, okay? That's the tip of the pyramid. Energy balance first, then your macronutrients, then your supplements. And 80-20%, okay? You don't need to eat 100% clean. Like this, eat 100% clean is a complete myth. You do not need to do that. We've seen before about when Mark done his experiment with junk food. He ate 100% junk food and lost weight. All right. So if you ate 80% great proteins, fibers, vegetables, that type of thing, and 20% of what you wanted, cheese, chocolate, wine, these things that are kind of forbidden, it keeps you sanity. It keeps you enjoyment in your food. And that works. 80-20 rule absolutely works. And then the final part is recovery and restoration. Okay, this is so important. So the pinnacle of physical health, mental health, and performance is enough recovery and restoration. Sleep is your biggest recovery tool. Okay, if there was one thing that you did more of after this workshop, it's sleep, because stress is good for your body. You need stress to exercise, you need stress to look after your kids, you need stress to function on a daily basis. And this stress is good until it impacts your sleep. Okay, so if you're kind of sitting up on a night time and you're not getting to bed, what you're doing is you're pushing that sleep further and further away. You're not getting that restorative sleep, therefore your stress levels are going to stay high. Your stress levels stay high, this becomes really detrimental to your health, and you start getting to those high levels of stress, like we said before, about being tired and wired. Sleep is your ultimate performance tool. So ask yourself these questions. How well do you sleep? Are you getting about 7 to 9 hours of good quality sleep, by the way, not just 7 to 9 hours? What kind of quality? Quality over quantity. You're much better off getting 6 hours of good quality sleep than 7 hours or 8 hours of really bad quality sleep. What recovery strategies do you use? Do you make sleep a priority? They're just some things to think about. So this was Helen. Helen was focused on a Thai boxing fight, and she was instructed by her coach to cut calories, eliminate carbs, and to train harder. She was in the state of low energy availability, she was luckily doing strength training because she was training with me, but she was really low. She had no energy. She struggled to focus at work. She couldn't get focused. She was always having brain fog. She had no motivation to train. She even thought about not taking the fight. She had systems shut down. A period stopped. She was always injured, constantly injured, her back, her knees, her shoulder. Every day, every week, she had another injury, and she was very, very close to being burnt out. All we did was we actually increased her calories. We went through the principles that we've just been through. I gave her more calories to focus on, and she made weight easily. She went down from, I think it was 82 kilos down to 62 kilos. She lost about 20 kilos altogether. She was down about 72 when she started getting all of these issues and when she was in that really restrictive state. So she did lose weight, but then she got to that sticking point. But when she went into a fight, she was just full of energy. She felt amazing, and she was in the best shape of her life. Endurance goals. So this was Suzanne. Suzanne was getting to the point where she was just feeling drained. She was an endurance athlete. She was doing a lot of running. She was doing ridiculous amounts of miles every day. I think she's doing about like 10 or 12 miles every single day. Energy was low. She was dragging herself through her running sessions. She was losing the motivation because her running times were coming down. But after making key changes, she smashed a half marathon time by 25 minutes. She knocked her time down by 25 minutes, which is absolutely incredible. And all we did was with Suzanne was just we did some performance training. She wasn't doing any strength training, so we started doing some strength training. And performance nutrition was absolutely critical. So we did nutrition with her and the recovery side of things, which we've just been through, and she knocked 25 minutes off her time. And this was Esther. All she wanted to do was to eat cake and chase the kids through the park. Sorry, she didn't want to eat cake. She wanted to chase the kids through the park and eat less cake. Okay, she was once very fit and active. She had kids. Life took over, and then she was just absolutely exhausted. She couldn't keep up with the kids, and she was feeling ashamed. That was her words. She felt ashamed that that she was getting exhausted when she was trying to run after her kids. But then the result, she was getting compliments from her friends. Her weight started coming down. She dropped 2 dress sizes. These are things that she didn't actually account for. All she wanted was more energy to run with the kids and to stop eating cake. But these were the side effects. She dropped 2 dress sizes, her sleep improved, she had more energy and just felt amazing. But these are the biggest things. She had a chronic skin condition, which improved. She could chase her kids, go down water slides, play football, and she felt years younger. Like, these aren't anything to do with how she looked. These were things to do with how she felt. And this is what I'm kind of trying to say is it's not about how you look, it's about how you feel. How you look is actually a side effect of feeling amazing. But a favourite moment was when a 4-year-old daughter said, "Mummy, can I have an egg for breakfast? I want to be strong just like you." I mean, how is that going to make you feel inside when your kids start looking at you and you start being inspired by what they're doing and they want to do what you're doing. And this is the thing, if you do have kids, like kids are inspired by words, kids are inspired by actions. So if they see you doing it, they're going to copy your actions. The same thing is as well, if they see you doing all of this restrictive stuff, even if you think they're not seeing it, they are seeing it. Okay. So if you can't do it for yourself, do it for your kids. Anchor down on someone you can trust who has your back. Okay. And what I mean by this is there's so much information, there's so much conflicting information out there. I hope this kind of has cleared a few maybe misconceptions for you and give you a bit of guidance. But anchor down on someone who's got your back. Okay. Anchor down on somebody who you trust and stick with that person for at least the next 12 months. So let's recap on what we just learned. So why most fitness advice isn't designed for you and how to harness your hormones to thrive at all stages of life. Why muscle is vital for metabolic health, energy, and fat loss, and how to change your body composition at any age. Why restrictive diets and calorie burning works against you, and how to fuel your body to lose fat, double your energy, and feel 10 years younger. So what's your next steps? So information is free and easy. This was educational today. It was information, it was free, and it was easy for you to attend. But let's be honest, information isn't the problem. Implementation is the problem. You doubt yourself, you get overwhelmed, and you question if what you're doing is actually the right thing. And that's okay. It's okay to be like that. It's okay to feel like that. And you should feel like that because the truth is you can't do it on your own. But how long have you struggled for? You always put everyone else first and leave yourself to last. Is it not time to be first for a change? So there's a choice. You can stay the same way and just keep taking information but not actually doing anything with it. Or you can make the change and take the opposite path. So where does that leave us now? Okay, so this is just, I want to kind of tell you how invested I am into making or helping women to navigate and get through this conflicting time of life that we're in with the fitness industry. I'm actually working with Dr. Nikki Kay next year. She is the UK's leading hormonal health expert. She works a lot with women specifically. She's a medical doctor, a scientist, researcher, and endocrinologist, and she's the author of Hormones, Health, and Human Potential. She's going to be working with me to help me create 2 programs this year, which I'm just going to cover now. The first one is Warrior Women, which is more specific to you guys, which I'm going to touch on just now. And this is going to revolutionizing female health and performance. The other one that I'm going to be working on now, because I know that you guys in here now, or you ladies in here now, do have daughters. I am actually going to be creating a program as well for female athletes, which will help them to understand their menstrual cycle and how to harness their menstrual cycle and their hormones to be able to perform in sport. I'm not going to go too much into that now, but that's just something that we're working on over this next 12 months. So the Warrior Woman program is basically, you're going to have this free download, which Claire introduced before, I'll give you the link to before. In there, you will find these 7 habits. And these are the 7 habits that we go through with the Warrior Woman program, okay? So I'll just quickly go through it. It's the first habit is to fill that 1 cup up first, yeah? Because that is the most important part. You've got to carve out time for yourself. And what I'll be doing is helping you to find time within your busy schedule. Whether you've got kids, you're working full time, it doesn't matter. We will find the time to make time for you, okay? That is the most important part. You've got to make time for yourself, whether that's 20 minutes, an hour, it doesn't matter. We will find that time together. The second thing is lifting weights, okay? So you're going to have everything covered. Your strength training programs, whether you train at home, in the gym, doesn't matter. You will have a program or programs to get in the best shape of your life. Fuel for performance, going to help you with your nutrition, to fuel for performance, help you feel amazing, help you get that energy back, double your energy, and feel 10 years younger. We're going to work together with the hormones as well. It doesn't matter what stage of life that you're in. Again, this is why that I'm working with Nikki, Dr. Nikki as well. So then I can rely on her expertise and she can help me so that I can help you. Okay, so we're going to be working deep with the hormones. tracking the hormones, getting you in tune with your hormones so you can become unstoppable. Master a morning routine, okay? Your morning is absolutely critical. It is the biggest game changer that you can make when it comes to developing habits, okay? How you start your day is how the rest of your day goes. So your morning routine is absolutely crucial. And we'll go through that. We'll develop plans, we'll develop strategies, we'll create habits so you can have an absolutely amazing morning every morning. How to reframe stress. Stress is essential. A lot of people dramatize stress and think it's a really bad thing. It can be bad. It really can be bad if it's not controlled. But we need to reframe it. We have stress recovery strategies in place and looking at stress from a different angle. And then the final thing is prioritizing sleep, okay? Sleep is the cornerstone, the pinnacle of physical health, mental health, and everything performance. And I keep coming back to performance because it's not about, performance to me is not about competing in a sport. It is, but it's also about performing in life, okay? And that's what I mean. When I say a performance, I mean you performing at your best. Whether you are training for a marathon or whether you just want to be the best you can for your kids, that is you performing. So performance, think of yourself like an athlete, okay? You don't have to compete in sports, but you do have to compete in life. So that's the 7 habits. And this is the brand new program that I'm going to be running and I'm going to be creating. And you are going to help me to create this program. So we're going to do 7 weeks of intensive group coaching through those habits. Okay. We're then going to be doing 12 months of coaching. So we're going to be doing a weekly group coaching call. All right. Every week, we're going to jump on a weekly coaching call because it's not linear. You're going to have problems. You're going to hit sticking points. You can't do this in 7 weeks. 7 weeks is just laying the foundations. The next 12 months is actually tackling the main problems that you're going to have. Okay. It's me in your corner for the next 12 months with any problems, any issues, anything you have. I'm here for you every step of the way. 12 months of community support. So we're going to have a private Facebook group just with people who sign up to this. We're going to be a strong community. It is just for members only. And that's going to be over the next 12 months. Lifetime access to the program that we create. So the program that we're actually going to be building, you will have lifetime access to that. You can always access that program at any time. 5 years time, 10 years time, you will always have access to that program. You will have unlimited access to workouts and nutrition resources that we create over the period of the 12 months. So I'm looking for 7 women who are sick and tired of the crash and burn weight loss cycle, who want a new approach that actually works and a coach who understands them, and who are ready to commit to the health over the next 12 months. Okay? If none of those things relate to you, then maybe the program isn't for you. You know, if you can't commit over the next 12 months to your health, then maybe it isn't for you, but hopefully it is. So how much is it? Because that is obviously a big factor. It's a total of 397 as a one-off fee. Okay, then it's £55 a month for the next 12 months. This is only available through this workshop. So through this workshop, if you then sign up to this program, you will get it at this one-time offer. After that, after today, after this program, after this workshop, sorry, it then goes to £997 and £75 a month. So you'll be getting a huge, huge discount if you sign up to that now. But we aren't going to have any links to sign up for it now because there is limited spaces. And I'm going to give you first a one-to-one 60-minute game plan session for free. Okay. So in this session, what we're going to talk about is why you're feeling stuck and what's holding you back, why past efforts haven't worked, and how to fix it fast, and a step-by-step plan to move you forward with confidence and success. So even if you didn't want to jump on this program, you are going to have a plan to move forward based on everything that we've spoken about. Because the way coaching works, the relationship has to work. And that's why I put 2 jigsaw pieces there, because if those jigsaw pieces don't fit, it doesn't matter what information you've got, it will never work. So you have to make sure that whoever you're going to be working with, that relationship works. And that's what this calls for. It's to make sure that we're going to work together. So we can decide together whether we're a good fit for one another. So thank you for your time today. Claire's going to put the link into the screen. If you are watching us back on the recording, I will link it to the email and you will be able to get it back on the recording. But thank you for your time today. I really do appreciate it. I know that it's a big ask of your time. So thank you. I hope you got some good information for it. I would love to hear your feedback. Yeah, thank you.